I'm your host for tonight. I'm gonna take point tonight. Anoop will be coming through. Um, hopefully tomorrow or sometime after that. I'm about to get it started. I'm gonna come back after the memorandum, and then the king can introduce themselves. All right, so let's get into it. All right, let me know when y'all can see the screen. Can somebody see it?
Yes, I can see the screen. I
Okay,
can see
cool.
the screen. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Listen to reason. The following memorandum is the conversation each and every new Nibu of the Ethiopian race should have with NoopooH at least once a day, and the name NoopooH should be pronounced in mind, whisper, or out loud in the numbers order given and before the conversation starts. The numbers order given creates two ends as you read the name, and the two ends made by reading and pronouncing the name NoopooH 9 times stand for NoopooH and New. NoopooH, 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 NoopooH. Remember the promise and covenant with your messenger, and also writer, Afro Uno, and all those who learn, accept, and practice positive nature knowledge and the laws of nature, as explained and described by Noon, your active science of all the worlds. Your promise and also covenant having been duly made are binding as following: economic well-being and liberation of the Ethiopian race, mentally, spiritually, and also physically, because it is the time and cycle for this action for your posterity, the Ethiopian race, and because we all, meaning Ripu, Gipu, and Sipu and all adherents dedicate and obligate the rest of our lives to sound right reason. Who is NoopooH? Positive nature knowledge, the laws of nature, also truth, equality, justice and practicing rightness, which is Noon, to the best of our knowledge and also abilities. The time for the Savior has passed. It is now time for the mental resurrection, liberation, justice, judgment, settlement, and balance for all peoples on planet Earth, as promised by the forces of nature and predicted by the ancients and sages of antiquity. NoopooH, please cause it to be.
All righty then, everybody. All right, we're back. We're back. We're back. All right. So, Kens, introduce yourself so we can get on with the festivities, please. Thank you.
Oh, true peace, cans and friends. I am Nibu Reuno Nupu, and I am a representative of our known science by way of our messenger, which was given to him in excuse me, which was given to him um, to give us this right, correct information um, for all woolly haired Ethiopian peoples on planet Girtha, aka as today Earth, And this information, I know it would be Islamic because it's going to continue to further expose the filthiness of Dwight York. True peace.
All right, true peace, all cans and friends. I'm a NoopooH. I'm a member of the African Ethiopian woolly head race. I'm also a proud representative of NoopooH, given to us by our great and noble messenger, Afro NoopooH. Yes, I know tonight will be an amazing episode, as they all are. And I'm thankful that the kin is able to use reasonability to break down this information and this knowledge and give it back to us very pure essence, use noon, and allowing us to open our minds from that spell that was given to Dr. York Leviathan, which is actually the opposite of what was given to Afro from Boo and Noon. So I'll be sitting back. Well, not sitting back. I'm actually still outside, but I'll be listening in and taking in this information as well. So, true.
Your audio sounded crazy. Like I don't know, it don't sound like it did before. It just sound like you could tell you riding around. That's how it sound, like you riding through a bunch of distortion. We heard most of what you said though, but I'm just letting you know the sound was bananas. But we know that the show must go on, rain, sleet, or snow. And so that's what we're here for. So let me get to what everybody came here for, to get more information. Y'all seen the title. Is Malachi York copied his creation story from the Kabbalah. All right, so we want to make it be clear. Every title you see up here is right and exact. It's not nothing made up. It's pure and simple, and people need to stop giving credit to this egomaniac who was just mixing up a whole bunch of stuff and spells, and that's why he ended up being as crazy as he was. Y'all got to remember, if religion is a spell and you mix in many religions, just imagine the gumbo of confusion that person's mind is in. All right. So let's get to it. True peace, all kins and friends in the chat. All right, so I'm going to start, and we're gonna go from there. All right, let me know when y'all can see that.
Can see it.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna be dissecting the Black Book, the first one that they put out, and we're gonna go from there. All right, written by Kinoo, NoopooH, Noon Ethiopian, year 63, NoopooH mental year 99, 11/13/2025. April 13, 2029 is in 3 years, 4 months, and 29 days, which is 1,247 days. It will be on a Friday and in week 15 of 2029. All right, Todd's question to ChatGPT. Can you find anything in the Jewish writings outside the Torah that is similar to what I'm posting here? This is from Mr. York's Black Book 1. One has to know the difference between El Aliyun and El Kalun. Question, what is the difference between El Aliyun and El Kalun? El Kalun is not confined to a place or space or what's called time, being omnipresent, omnipotent, which simply means present where all things are, and present where power is, thus alleviating the possibility of being God in heaven or a God coming to earth or a God in the universe, but rather in all, that all is in and of, including heaven. El Kalun is, and each individual thing is the it or that, or there or here. The is existence and is safe until one says exists as and introduced as a or as the, which confines the being to a thing or a place or a person. Again, stepping away from El Kalun significance. The all is a statement that nothing can be taken because all, nothing can be added because all, which simply means where would you put it or where would you get it from, because Even it is all. This sounds like it's from the Kabbalah about Eon Soft, but tell me what you find. ChatBT responds. You are raising a very interesting comparison between the phrasing from the Black Book, the sacred record of Ray by Malachi York, the distinction El Aliyun and El Kalun, and the mystical tradition within Jewish Kabbalah. I've looked into it, and here's a summary of the parallels and differences with an eye toward how your quote may align with or diverge from the Jewish Kabbalistic text. The Jewish Kabbalistic term Ein Sof, meaning without end, infinite, is used to describe the divine in its absolute undifferentiated pre-emanation state, infinite, boundless, and unknowable, as the source of all being. For example, any attempt to define or limit Ein Sof is seen as a form of idolatry, a reduction of the infinite to the finite. Also, Ein Sof is both the fullness of being and absolute nothingness, which echoes the sense of all is in and of from your quote. The notion that limitation or definition is a reduction of the divine, the line from your quote until one says exists as and introduces as a or as the, which confines the being to a thing, stepping away from El Kalun's significance, mirrors the Kabbalistic idea that once you put limits or attributes on the infinite, you fall into Yeridah, descent from pure unity or partiality of the divine. For example, the Kabbalistic text to define it is to defile it. Side note, remember, Mr. York doesn't always follow the Kabbalah word for word, so as to not to be exposed to his source of plagiarizing. Direct Kabbalistic passages and how they map to El Kalun All. ChatGPT continues. Isaac Luria, ex Chaim Ari, pre-creation simple light, summary of Lurianic teachings. Before all things were created, the light of Ein Sof filled all of existence. There was no empty space that could be characterized as space, emptiness, or void. There was no category of beginning or end. All was one undifferentiated simple light. The timeless wisdom of Brizzo plus one. Why this matches El Kalun? This is the classic Kabbalistic formulation that the infinite Ein Sof fully pervades reality prior to any limitation. Exactly the sense of all is in and of being, not confined to place or time. Chabad, or Ein Sof, formulation on the infinite light filling all existence. Know that before the emanations were emanated and the creations were created, there was a supernal simple light filling all of existence. There was no beginning and no end. Rather, all was one simple light. Why does Master El Kalun, the phrase filled all of existence, no vacant space, parallels York's present where all things are in the pantheistic flavor of the all. Zohar, an engraving, a carving in the upper light, creation by restriction, Tzimtzum, and the vacated space. The Zoharic passages describe the primordial simple light and the act by which a vacated space restriction allowed finite creation to appear. The infinite had to be concealed, not changed. See Zohar commentary on the engraving upon the supernal light in the vacated space. Why this matches nothing added, nothing taken? Kabbalah treats creation as concealment or restriction of the infinite rather than subtraction or addition to the infinite. Consistent with you cannot add or take away from the all, because the all properly understood is undiminished. The Sefer Yetzirah opens with the 32 paths and the teaches that primordial wisdom is the level above all division, where everything is a simple unity. Kaplan's phrase of Sefer Yetzirah. Why this matches El Kalun, the focus on an original undifferentiated unity from which letters Sephiroth then give form, echoes the York line that definition exists as a or the, introduces limitation away from the all. Sefer HaBahir, the great light that is once concealed and universal. Sefer HaBahir repeatedly speaks of a primordial great light, inconceivable, both light and darkness to the human mind that underlines all. There's a darkness which is not darkness in itself, and that is the great light that shines forth to all and is called darkness because it is inconceivable. Why this matches El Cologne? By his emphasis that the primordial reality is beyond human categories and that our naming would confine it parallels York warning that saying a or the confines being. Tar responds, take a look at Mr. York's Holy Tablets released in 1996 AD and we will see the whole setup. It said, lo, oh my children, allow me to speak with you for it is that time again. Every 25,000 years for the renewal of your way of life, Nawabu, let me speak with you of the beginning of life before and after the knowledge bestowed upon you of your very own creation and the making of this planet you call Earth and the many other planets of which you have no knowledge of. Let me start by telling you about the beings that existed trillions of Earth years ago, before the Precambrian period, before you human beings were created in the physical form upon the planet Earth, now called Earth from the word Eridu. There existed supreme beings of pure green light, ethereal, and hold on. All right, I got you. Ethereal and sub-supreme beings of the impure amber light fire. You cannot fully comprehend their beginnings because their time zone is much greater than your ability to comprehend at this time. Yet this very tablet which you are holding in your hand will open your eyes to their time zone that are in and beyond space. So here, York says right here, you cannot fully comprehend their beginning because their time zone is most greater than your ability to comprehend. So it goes right back up to here where it says that there's a darkness which is not darkness in itself, and that is the great light that shines forth to all and is called darkness because of what? Because it is inconceivable. So York is saying the same thing. This is beyond y'all comprehension, right? So we see it's lining up. Tar asks Deep Seek. Now I switch to Deep Seek from chat. Does the Jewish writings contain anything about the color green at the beginning of creation or in the Sephiroth spheres at all? Deep Seek responds, excellent question. The color green does indeed hold significance, though nuanced, symbolic meaning in Jewish mysticism, both in the context of creation and within the structure of the Sephiroth. All right, so remember, York said up here that the beings that came first were what? Pure green light, ethereal. All right? So now let's see what the Kabbalah talk about. Here's a breakdown of its appearance and symbolism in the source you're interested in. Look, 1, green at the beginning of creation. The most direct and powerful reference to the color green at the beginning of creation comes from what? The Zohar, right? Why is York talking about a green light of creation? And you can find this in the Zohar. We know that the Zohar writings were written before, and you're not going to find no color scheme in Kemet. So we know that one came before the other. So it's clear York is following these people. All right? The Zohar and the green line. In the Zohar, specifically in Better Sheath 1:16a and other related passages, a mysterious green line for Kav Barak is described as one of the what? Primordial elements that God used to what? Begin the process of creation. So same thing up here. Let me start telling you about the being that existed trillions of Earth years ago before what? The Precambrian period, before you human beings were created in the physical form upon the planet Earth. So this is before the beginning. So we right on time. They neck and neck, right? Nobody's stretching nothing. The green line is not a physical color, but a metaphor for the first emanation of what? Of divine energy into the void. It is the channel through which the infinite colorless light of Ein Sof, the endless, begins to flow and take on a divine creative form. It is often associated with the Sefer of Yosef foundation, which acts as a channel funneling the what? Divine energy from the higher Sephiroth down into our physical world. Remember, your books that he been putting out, they keep saying this was sent down to Unawabi. So it's establishing a direction. So we know that York is playing games with his flock. Now, side note. All right. No, okay, my bad. Coming down to the physical world. Malchut, kingship. Yasad is linked to the righteous Tzaddik. Remember, York, the Z of his name stands for Zodok. But this is how they pronounce it in the Hebrew. Instead of saying Zodok, it's Zadik. And the covenant representing the life-giving force that sustains creation. Uh-oh, here we go. Side note, let's look at what Sepharah of Yasad represents. It's come from an article, Friday, September the 1st, 2017. Look, sex is the Yesod, the ninth Sephiroth of the 10 Sephiroth structure of the tree of life, which is God's messianic Kabbalah wisdom. Remember, York been calling himself the Messiah. I put that in a couple videos back. They're calling York the Messiah, but because York is following the Kabbalah, they're telling you the whole creation and light and all that stuff is coming from a sex energy. All right, so guess what that means? Leviathan is present. All right. Now look, this is coming out of their own diagram. Look, sex equals Yesod of the tree of life, right? And look where the arrow's pointing, where the vagina is or the sexual organ is at. That's the Yesod. See? It's in the Kabbalah. They showing you what it is. All right? There's no way Sabian the Wyman is going to be able to get out of this box. You're not going to get out of this one. Y'all stuck. Told y'all was a sex-possessed PDF file worshiping moon cult. We keep telling y'all that's been saying this since 2014. All right? Now we get more proof that York was tapping into sex energy. All right? The Zohar speaks about what? The Sephiroth of Yesod, which is a what? An immense mean big, reservoir that resides just above our physical dimension. Remember, Leviathan is calling Noon a giant sex force. All right? So here in the Kabbalah and the Zohar is telling you that there's a giant reservoir, right, filled that's just above our physical dimension. All the upper worlds on Sephiroth fill Yesod with their unique spiritual forces, where they are blended and prepared for what? Transfer. All this is sexual energy, like a cosmic what? Pipeline. Yesod then funnels all this light into our world. Malkut, right? Sounds similar to Malachi, don't it? We can arouse. Look, the word arouse, great light in the upper worlds through our actions. But unless the floodgates of Yesod are open, right? Because it's talking about opening the gate of sex, because it's right here where the genitals is at. All right? Are open, the light can never reach our realm. But we know this is a lie. We know that Leviathan is all over the universe, in the skies, in the water, in the blood. This is foolishness. This article strengthens our personal connection to Yesod. They help us to what? Open the pipeline from the upper world. So this is telling you why you seeing so much sex on TV, so much sex in the movies, so much sex in the music, right? It's all over the place because these people are working with Leviathan. And Leviathan, and they're opening up the floodgates, right? Allowing it to come all over the place. Heterosexual sex, non-heterosexual sex, animal sex, transgender, 45 genders. I don't identify as this. I'm a man in a woman's body. All this sex around the world is coming from the energies that the Kabbalah and the people that study this is unleashing it. This is in their doctrine. This is not in the Torah. This is in their books that they hide from most people. All right, so they're telling you that they're working with all of the upper realms, which we know that's 6 ether and lower. All right? And remember, like Anoop said, whenever you see the word 9, see, Yesod is the 9th. But that stands for what? 3, 3, and 3. Don't let them fool you. All right? Now look, the secret of Yesod, according to the Zohar, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Genesis 1:9. The words be gathered, Hebrew Yakavu, means that the waters travel in a what? Straight line, without spreading to the right or left. Everything flows from the secret of that what? Primal point. And again, I showed y'all that York put out that book that I showed in the last video called NUN, A Better Guide to Living, and it got primordial and all that. Remember, primordial is about, that's the video I did called Yanun equals Leviathan. So all that primordial stuff, and none is chaotic waters. We know that Leviathan is a water force. It is a water god and goddess. So York is talking about the sex force via using NUN by saying we know that Nun is before creation. As we read here, it's talking about before creation, and then it comes down into creation called these spears. All right, so now we see that York is channeling sex forces in his writings because he can't practice it physically because he's been trapped in a box in Colorado. So he's still writing a certain kind of way and trying to keep control over his peoples. All right, so it says everything flows from the secret of that primal point, which is Arik Anpin, until the light reaches the supreme temple. From here, it then flows in a straight line to Christ until it reaches that one place where everything is gathered according to the secret of male and female. So he's talking about the genitals. So when they talk about let the waters gather together, they're talking about the male and female getting erect and the woman becoming wet. And now here come the what? The juices. So this whole thing of Genesis and about the water being separated from this is a sex book. Genesis and the rest of it is a porno book. And the Kabbalah is porn. Because it clearly says this. Everything flows from the secret, right? Okay, we got that. What is the one place? This is the what? Life of the worlds equals what? The Yesod of Christ, which we know that Christ is ghost, which is the male. Christ is united with Malkut, which is the feminine principle. Malkut is the earth and its inhabitants. And we know that Malkut this the Hebrew word for Geb, the earth god. And we know that Christ is ghost god, and ghost god is the underworld god. And you can't be called an underworld if there's not a world for the ghost god to be connected to. So it's telling you right here, ghost god and Geb is right here. It's telling you. All right? And that with them creates all types of things they got going on, which we'll talk about another time. All right? Now, the words under the heaven pertains to what? The Yesod of Christ. Now they're calling this the genitalia of Christ. All right? This is how they hide stuff in front of y'all, which is called the small vav. Christ is called the great vav, while his Yesod is called the small vav, right? Or vav. So you got 3 of these. And vav in the Hebrew is what? 6. Side note, vav is 6. So you got 6, 6, and 6. The quote shows 3 vowels on 666. Also, the Latin word for sex is 6. All right, let's continue. Sex is the foundation of mankind. Destroy it and mankind falls into extinction. Remember, we know that mankind is all peoples without what? Woolly hair. So this has nothing to do with us. But it's telling you that mankind needs sex as its foundation because they can't make no moves without it. Because they depend on Leviathan. Like the Bible interpretation says, Leviathan is what? The god of the Caucasian and mankind in general. So they're telling you in their own books that they need sex to what? Survive. But now there's so many people on the planet from sex, now they're saying we got to depopulate. Oh, now y'all want to reverse it now. Because they looking for a place to live so they can go and take over some land because they see the sun cycle is in and they got to find a place to live. All right, let's keep it moving. Sex, or yesar, is the foundation and the power to produce the next what? Generations of mankind. If mankind what? Abuse or misuse this foundation, which he has, his future is what? Very shaky and is directed toward what? Destruction and extinction of the human race. No, of his race. We ain't got nothing to do with that. They're the ones that are pushing sex all over the place. Sex, drugs, death, entertainment. Now depopulation because there's too much sex. So they condemning their own writings is condemning them. Everyone must know that sex is the yesar. Look, the ninth Sephiroth, which is 333 of the what? 10 Sephiroth of the structure of the tree of life and God's life-giving messianic Kabbalah wisdom. And this yesar corresponds to the sexual or reproductive organs of a man and woman. Look at that. The sex, which we know as Leviathan, is the manifestation of infinity within the finite limitations of a human being. Each individual man is a small compared to all the next generation that will come from him. Thus, the yesar, penis, in man is referred to as the small limb of man. It is the small finite that holds the large infinite. In other words, the yesar or penis is the small and narrow bridge between the finite physicality and the infinite potential of what? Human reproduction that flows into it and then manifests in reality as the what? The physical children that are produced from it with the potential to become spiritual children of God. But we know that York did not do that. York abused sex and got over 200 kids, and none of his children are doing nothing significant for the black race. Name one of York's children that went into what they call spiritual children of God. Unless you're talking about Ghost God, because they sure not doing nothing with Noon. So they all religious. A lot of them still got Muslim names and living like savages on the street. Like I showed you before, if you look at a lot of York's kids, you could not tell them from regular people on the street. So he didn't do nothing but produce a bunch of children to be used as cannon fodder for the system. That's what York did. He paid full into the Moon God system. Created a whole bunch of kids for birth certificates, life spans, hospital. He helped the system. All right? He works for Leviathan. That came from marriagemysteryblogspot.com, 2017. Sex is yesar, all right? If y'all want to look that article up. Side note, for those who don't remember, Mr. York claimed he was at age 13, was given a what? A bar mitzvah in 1958 by Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthews, who was the leader of the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews of Harlem. Look at that word Zionist. And we know that these are the evil group of Jews that's out here running the world mad. So here York is making a confession that York was being taught the Kabbalah back then. As a Hebrew, this is a quote, I was bar mitzvah in the year 1958 AD by the great rabbi. And Anoop gonna go in on this right here. On the great Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthews, born 1892, died 1965 AD, leader of the Moorish Zionist temple. This is how you just see how the confusion, how you a Moor and a Zionist. Foolishness. Temple of the Moorish Jews of Harlem at age 13. In the book, Is It Black Man's Christianity or White Man Christianity? Page 14. This is Rabbi Matthews right here in an older, and he look old, he's older here. But you can see the Moorish Zionist temple of the Moorish Jews. All right, so we know that the Zionists, which are the pale Jews from out of Russia, Ashkenazi and Ashkenazim, right? All of them, and they got that 6-pointer Hindu star up there. They all was being controlled by these people. This is Rabbi Matthew at a younger age, right? Courtesy of NoopooH.com is where I grabbed this from. All right? I know all the bones are buried. You would never get away from me. All right? In this context, green symbolizes the first burst of life, vitality, and the sustaining powers that structures and feed the nascent universe. It is the divine DNA or the blueprint of creation, imbued with the potential for all life. Midrash and Talmud. There are Agadic homiletic traditions that describe a primordial supernal light that God created on the first day. Some interpretations suggest this light was not a white light as we know it, but contained all colors within it, with green often symbolizing its life-giving, sustaining quality. After the first days of creation, this original light was hidden away for the righteous in the world to come. Yesod Foundation, as mentioned above, due to his role as the channel of life force from Tiferet to Malkut, Yesod also partakes in the symbolism of green. It is the engine of vitality and generativity, often associated with the reproductive and sustaining forces in the world. Nitzak, eternity, victory. In some color schemes, the Nitzak, which represents enduring victory in the natural world, is also linked to the color green, reflecting the persistent eternal force of nature, the bridge between heaven and earth. The green line of the Zohar and the Sephirah of Yesod both function as conduits. Green, therefore, symbolizes the channel through which the abstract divine becomes manifest reality. Side note, so we see the green line was associated with reproduction and sex. Mr. York had a Sufi order called Sons of the Green Light, and Mr. York was sleeping with many of his Muslim members' wives, etc., and it's clear he was using Kabbalah sex magic to accomplish his mind control over his followers. Eventually, all that sex magic activities caught up to him. Tar questions deep seat. Mr. York also mentions amber light fire, yellow or orange color at the beginning of creation. Is this mentioned in the Jewish writing? So I put the quote back up here. So supreme beings of the impure amber light fire. Okay, you cannot fully comprehend that beginning because their time zone is much greater than your ability to comprehend, correct? Deep Seek responds. This is another excellent question that gets to the heart of the mystical imagery used in creation narratives. The concept of the amber, yellow, or orange light or fire at the beginning of creation is not only present in Jewish writings, but is one of the most profound and enigmatic motifs in all of the prophetic and mystical literature. The key term is called kashmal. Here's a detailed breakdown of its significance in the sources you reference. The meaning of kashmal. The word kashmal is incredibly difficult to translate, and it is a subject of extensive commentary. Its meaning points directly to the amber, yellow, orange fire you asked about. The linguistic breakdown in color, the Talmud, Hagiga 13b, engages in a deep discussion about the word warning that it is so mysterious that one should not even expound upon it. It is often translated as amber, electrum, or glowing metal. And look at that. See, York used the same word, amber, right? Light and fire. All right, now look at what they saying in their books. A glowing metal, amber is fossilized resin that can range in color from yellow to orange. An electrum is a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver with a pale yellow glow. The consensus is that it describes a brilliant polished metallic substance, what? Glowing with the what? Fiery yellow, orange, or amber light. Didn't York just say something about an impure amber light? Told y'all he was a black Kabbalist. All right. Esoteric and mystical interpretations. The Zohar and other Kabbalistic texts break the word cosmos into two parts. Kosh, meaning silent, and ma, meaning to speak. This creates a paradoxical meaning, speaking silence or silent speech. It represents the primordial point where the unutterable silent divine will first begins to articulate itself into the speech of creation. It is the interference between the Ein Sof, the infinite, which is silent, and the revealed universe, which is God's speech. In this context, the amber fire of cosmos is the first substance of conscious creation, a divine thought, fire that contains the entire blueprint of reality. It is not a destructive fire, but a creative, intelligent, and living light, connecting to the beginning of creation. While Ezekiel's vision is of the divine chariot, the Merkava, the Kabbalists, particularly those of the Sapphic Circle, the Adi Lurianic Kabbalah, connect this vision directly to the Genesis account. The stormy wind and flashing fire surrounded by a radiance from Ezekiel 1:4 are seen as a description of the primordial energies present at the very instant of Yesh Mi Ayin, the creation from nothingness. The amber cosmos at the center of this fire is the first coherent structure emanation from the infinite light, or Ein Sof. It is the vessel or the screen that allows the pure, undifferentiated light to take on a specific creative form. This connects to the concept that the Kav HaRishon, the first line, or the Tzum, the contraction, where the infinite light withdraws to make space for creation. The first light to re-enter that space is often described in terms of this mysterious fire, amber glow, the Chashmal, the Tiferet beauty. As the central harmonizing Sephiroth, Tiferet is often associated with the color yellow or gold reflecting the sun. The brilliant balanced light of Chashmal aligns perfectly with the harmonizing nature of Tiferet, Yesod, foundation. As the channel for the divine flow, Yesod is sometimes associated with a clear or white light, but its function of transmitting the living fiery energy from above connected to the dynamic nature of the Chashmal, a supernal force. In some interpretations, the Chashmal is associated with a level even higher than the Sephiroth. As we usually conceptualize them, it is part of the primal toolkit God used to create the Sephirotic structure itself. When you combine this with the previous answer about the green line, you get a powerful two-stage mystical color theory for creation. Remember, York said it was two colors, green and amber. See, now it's saying the same thing here. The amber fire of Chashmal, the first structure emanation, the speaking silence of divine will and intelligent energy. The green line, the subsequent life-giving channel that carries that structured energy forth to vivify and sustain all the levels of creation. Let me say right here, when he put this stuff in these books, especially the tablets, in these instances, he never cited where he got this stuff from. And this is reason why, because now he would have to explain why you taking information and remixing it, because this is what he does. He's been remixing everybody's stuff, but his primary source was the Kabbalah, and he used it in different forms whenever he changed schools of thought. Let him tell it. But the Kabbalah is York's well. It's where he was great. He was grabbing all of his information from amongst other things and mixing it and fixing it, all right? Or breaking it, rather. The amplifier of Chasmo, the first structure emanation of speaking silence of the divine will and intelligent energy. The green line, the subsequent life-giving channel that carried the structure energy forth. Okay, we did that. This showed that Dwight York's teaching, while synthesized into his own system, were drawn directly from the most central and complex imagery of Ezekiel's macabre vision and his subsequent interpretation in the Zohar and the Lurianic Kabbalah. The Sefer HaBahir, the great light that is at once concealed and universal. The Sefer HaBahir speaks of a primordial great light, inconceivable, both light and darkness to the human mind, that underlies all. There is a darkness which is not darkness in itself, and that is the great light that shines forth to all, and is called darkness because it is inconceivable. All right? We went through that already. All right, part 2, the signs of the circle and the square. All right, tall as deep sea. Let me add more quotes. Maybe you can tie down the two. The signs of the circle and the square. 19 times 5 equals 95, which is 95 verses. In order to create something, the Neteret, who are also known as the Neterat, the ancient ones headed by a group of Ray called Atun Ray, Amun created a state of nothingness. This is all foolishness, in which to place the 99 elements or attributes of this state by who he, the eternal, or things on this side of H1. All right, he's giving props to Yahweh, which means the eternal one. This is another name for Tahuti. All right, this is a lie that Tahuti is telling. All right, therein is the beginning of the supernatural, yet natural, yet physical creation of 3 suns. All right, which you know the 3 suns in reality is our sun, Jupiter, and Saturn. Those are the 3 suns in our local solar system. All right, York is a real live plagiarizer, man. Real live Puff Daddy. All right, Aum, Sal, and Shemesh. Can you go more into the geometric shapes? York spoke of that is in the Kabbalah. Geometry, symbols, circle, square, and creation, the Kabbalah. Many texts use geometric metaphors, circle, spear, light, void, to describe the infinite and emanation. The Sefer Yetzirah use letters and shapes. The metaphysic circle and square can be seen as analogous to the Kabbalistic use of form to describe formlessness. Deep Seek responds, the circle in Kabbalah, Ian Soft and the Tizum. In Lurianic Kabbalah, 16th century, Isaac Luria, the Ari, before creation, Ian Soft, the infinite, filled all reality. Nothing existed outside it. To allow creation, Ian Soft contracted within itself, the Tizum, forming a void, halal. Within that void, a ray of divine light carved into it, establishing the Sephirotic structure, the pattern of divine manifestation. The circle symbolizes this infinite, unbounded field before contraction. The square or grid-like symmetry of the Sephiroth represent measured emanation, the ordering of chaos into structured worlds. The X Chaim, the tree of life, 1 through 2. Hold on. 1 through 2, the infinite withdrew his light, leaving a void, a circle of space in which the worlds could be created. The circle of void was literally drawn as a concentric circles in Luranic diagrams surrounded by the light of Ian Soft. So here you can see that. All right. It says you can see the circle and the square. It said in Kabbalah, the circle symbolizes the infinite, spiritual, and divine, while the square represent the finite material and earthly realm. The process of squaring the circle in creation signifies the reconciliation of these two aspects. The union of the circle in creation signifies the reconciliation of these two aspects. The union of the infinite and the finite with spiritual energy, the circle, manifests within the physical world, the square. This represents the act of creating the material world in the ongoing process of bringing divine ideas into a concrete reality. Tar responds, okay. I have more quotes from Mr. York's Black Book Part 1 on the circle and the square. I'll post them here in parts. I need you to search the writings I already given you and also check these extra ones I have found. The Lurianic Kabbalah, the Etz Hayim, the Tree of Life, the Sha'ar, the Hakat Damat, Gate of Introduction, the Paradis, Ramonim, the Garden of Pomegranates, the Tor, the Or, the Igalum, and Yosha. Here are some of York's quotes. Question, what happens in the element realm? In the element realm, the energy which was confined in the square, see, the square tried to escape. It pushed upward, outward, and downward. Question, what effect did this friction cause? This constant friction generated heat to the degree that the square could no longer withstand, and an explosion of enormous force occurred. Question, did this event happen on the physical plane? This grand event has yet to be manifested on the physical plane as the birth of this side of the universe, the formation of the stars, galaxies, and the planets. It is all a grand plan of ETs or planets. Question, can you please explain this further? To understand more, let's analyze the merging of the circle and the square from an atomic point of view, having to do with the science of some microscopic particles called atoms. The energy upon its arrival on the material plane was manufactured by the conversion or changing of certain elements and gases known as hydrogen and helium, which is not by far the lightest as atoms will tell. As light as atoms will tell. Question, what about the circle? The circle is a symbol of infinite, and only the being that connects the 2 points knows where it begins and ends. So it becomes the tool of the master builders and the roots of Alpha and Omega. This is fascinating. The quotes from Dwight York's Black Book, this is deep sea talking, are a direct and creative reinterpretation of one of the most central and complex doctrines in Lurianic Kabbalah, the concept of the Shivarat Hakilim, the shattering of the vessels, and the subsequent interaction between the forces of Igulam, circles, and Yoshir, upper line. Let's break down his quotes and cross-references with them and cross-reference them with the specific text concepts you provided. The core doctrine, Igulam versus Yosha. In the Lurianic system, the initial structure of the Sephiroth was not in the linear anthropomorphic arrangement we often see, known as the Yosha, meaning the upright or straight. Instead, they were arranged in concentric circles known as Igulam, meaning circles. Igulam, the circles. This represents a state of what? Perfection, self-containment, and equal radiation from a central point. Remember this part up here because I'm going to show y'all something in a little bit. So here it's saying it's circles, right? Each Sephiroth was like a perfect concentric shell around the divine light. However, this structure had a flaw. The vessel of the Lord Sephiroth were what? Too immature and weak to receive the intense, undifferentiated light of the Ensof. They were what? All equal and separate, lacking what? The interconnected flow of the latter, Yosha structure. Yosha, the upper line. This is the familiar linear structure of the Sephiroth, the Keta, Chokma, Bena, Chesed, Guvera, Tiferet, Nitzak, Ha, Yeset, Malkut. It represents a system of dynamic interaction, flow, and balance where energy can be what? Processed and mitigated from top to bottom. So York took this and said, instead of saying the circles within the circles, which is this right here, these are the circles, the Sephiroth tree. These right here are the circles within the circles. What York did is the energies in these circles, York just turned some of them to a square. And then it's just like it said here that these circles, when the end soft, which they call God, put all this energy into these spheres, as you got further down, they became weaker and they couldn't contain the energy and exploded. So York took that whole thing and changed the shapes up and reworded it. All right, this is what he's good at. He's good at doing that because his mind is so corrupt. He cannot help himself of changing things so drastically to where you can't even recognize it anymore. And he tried to do that with Noon Science. And he stole the Bible interpretation and copyright that stuff and started creating other books outside of those books to create confusion. All right? So here we're breaking the spell of y'all nasty Kabbalah, black, Jewish, Zionist teacher. All right? Because this is what he's doing. All right? So the transition from what? Igulum, which is circle, to Yosha, which is a straight line, which they say is not really a line, it's really circles, is what caused the what? The catastrophe and the subsequent repair. The catastrophe is the explosion of those circles or spears. Cross-referencing York's quotes with Lurianic Kabbalah. Quote, the circle is infinite and the master builder. The circle is a symbol of infinite, and only the being that connects the 2 points knows where it begins and ends. So it becomes the tool of the master builders and the roots of Alpha and Omega. The Lurianic source, the Igulum. The concept of Igulum is precisely this. The circular arrangement symbolizes the infinite encompassing and equal radiation of the divine light before specific directed creation. It's the primordial undifferentiated state. The master builder, this is reference to the divine architect. In Kabbalah, God is often referred to as the architect or builder. See, this is showing you that York is a straight Kabbalist, builder of the universe, using the Sephiroth and the Hebrew letters as his tools. The circle, the Igulum, is his primary tool for the initial abstract blueprint. See, they know that. And this is why they tell them when you a Mason, they tell you what? Circle off the square. Because they know that it's really a circle in the Kabbalah in circles, not a square. All right, so that's showing you that even the symbol of the Masons is deception. The same thing with the G. If you connect the G becomes a circle. So all of this is a part of the deception of this whole mess. Quotes 2 to 4. The confined energy, friction and explosion. In the element realm, the energy which was confined in the square tried to escape. It pushed upward, outward, and downward. This constant friction generated heat to the degree that the square could no longer withstand, and an explosion of enormous force occurred. This is a near-perfect allegorical description of the Shivirat Hakilim, the shattering of the vessels. The Lurianic source. In the system of the Gilum, the intense light of the Ensof streamed into the vessels of the Sephiroth, the higher vessels. The Chakma Bina couldn't contain it, but the lower 7 vessels from Chesed to Malakut could not. They were too rigid and separate in circular structure. The square as the vessel. York uses the square to represent these lower structured vessels. They are square because they represent defined, limited, and measurable realms, like the physical world, which has dimensions. The energy is the divine light, pushing and friction. The light pushed against the inner walls of these vessels, creating immense pressure. This is the Lurianic concept of the light having nowhere to go and creating a state of intense conflict within the vessels. Heat and explosion. The heat is the intensity of the unprocessed divine light. The explosion is the shattering in itself. The vessels of the lower Sephiroth burst apart, scattering divine sparks and fragments of the broken vessels into the lower realms. This is the cosmic catastrophe that created the potential for evil and imbalance in the universe. Quote 5, the event not yet manifested. Quote York again. This grand event has yet to be manifested on the physical plane as the birth of this side of the universe, the formation of the stars, galaxies, and planets. The Lurianic source, the Tukkum, and the physical world, the shattering, the Shibirah, is a metaphysical event that occurred in the spiritual realms of the Olam HaTohu, the world of chaos. Our physical universe, with its stars and galaxies, is a product and consequence of that shattering. It is built from the fragments and sparks. The process of Tikkum, which is rectification, is the going spiritual work to gather these sparks and repair the broken vessel. So the cause, the explosion is spiritual, but its effects are fully manifested in our physical reality. Quote 6, the atomic view in hydrogen and helium. All right, let's analyze the merging of the circle and square from an atomic point of view. The energy was manufactured by the conversion of certain elements and gases known as hydrogen and helium. The Lurianic source, Etz Hayim and modern synthesis. This is where York synthesizes Kabbalah with modern science. The classic texts like the Etz Hayim do not mention hydrogen and helium. However, the symbolic connection is potent. Hydrogen is the first and lightest element, the building block of the universe. In Kabbalistic terms, it can be seen as the primordial chakma, wisdom, which is the first point of something from nothing. Helium is the next element formed from hydrogen. This can be seen as Bina, understanding, which gives form and structure to the initial flash of wisdom. The Big Bang theory of modern cosmology, which starts with the primordial state of hydrogen and helium, is being mapped into the Kabbalistic Big Bang of the Shivira. The merging of the circle and square is the process of the infinite spiritual blueprint, circle, Egulum, manifesting as the structured physical universe, square, Yosha, and the broken fragments. Conclusion. All right, so it goes into that. I'm not going to read that. We're going to jump over that. His teaching is a coherent, idiosyncratic narrative that maps the lunaritic cosmic drama into a scientific and esoteric framework drawn directly from the concepts in the Etz Hayim Shadar, the Hakadamut, and the fundamental duality of Gilum and Shiosha. Tar responds, let me add a bit more on this topic. I'm almost done. Mr. York's book, The Science of Creation, page 13 and 14. Now look at this. Look, you got a square and a circle, right? And it says, if the circle and square are equal, why are their shapes different? Shapes create illusions, making objects appear other than what they actually are. These two shapes appear to be different, but examining their mathematical properties, you'll find they are the same. So now you're talking about creation. As above, El Elo took the infinite, right, which he's making it a line, and formed the circle, which is infinite. Once closed, you can't find a beginning or end. Only he who created it knows. Infinite, from the Latin infinitus, meaning boundless, unlimited, endless. It has neither beginning nor end, nor distinct point of direction. All points are the same. All right, so you got one that represents infinite, one that represents limited. So he's saying he drew a circle and then a square. From the center, which is a dot, remember this right here, the dot, to the circumference of the circle, and cannot be extended in any direction extreme. Then El Elo formed the square. Finite from Latin finitus or finere, meaning to set limits, to bound and finish. It has 4 points of direction. Points from center to perimeter are not the same distance. Lines can be extended in more than one direction, extreme. Then El Elo took the circle and turned it inside out and placed it within the confines of the square. This was accomplished by first dividing the circle into 4 parts, all right? So we just focusing on the dot in this circle. Page 14. Tar's question. Is there in the Jewish writings that creation started with or from a black dot or a central point? Deep Seek responds, yes, yes, yes. There's a very close match in a thought of Jewish mystical writings to the idea that creation began from a black point, dark point, central point, or primordial point. It is not identical to black dot in every source, but the concept absolutely exists and is attested in multiple classical texts. Below are the closest, strongest, and most explicit sources. The Sefer Yetzirah, a single point. The Nakuda. Sefer Yetzirah repeatedly describes creating beginning from a single point out of which everything else emerges. Typical lines. He created his universes with 3 books and formed substance from chaos. and made non-existence into existence, like a flame bound to a burning coal. Commentators, Sadia, Gra, Rabah explain creation began with a single dimensionless point, was then expanded into 10 sephiroths of nothingness. While it does not say black, the primordial point is described as ayin, nothingness, which is conceptually what? Dark, hidden, concealed. The Zohar, a dark point, a hidden point, a point within the infinite. The Zohar explicitly used the phrase dark point. The Nikudah Dela Yada or the Nikudah Shikora by commentators. Most relevant passages. The Zohar, Bereshit 1. At the end of the king's authority, a supernal point appeared. This point is the beginning of what? All emanations. Commentators describe it as a darkened because it precedes the emanation of light. The Zohar Hadash on Bereshit, from a concealed point hidden in the infinite, the universe was engraved. This concealed point is described by Safed commentators as dark or black, since light has not yet expanded. The Zohar, Idra Rabbah, and the Idra Zuta. Before emanation, the infinite is darkness, unknowable, and a point forms within it. This point is the root of Keta, crown, the first emergence of definable reality. Lurianic Kabbalah, the Arizal, the point of Tizim Tizum. In Etz Kayim and pre-Etz Kayim, Kayim Vitals Recorders, the Arizal describes the infinite light retracts, leaving an empty circular void. Look, a circular void. Then in the Kuda Imtizayat, a central point emerges, right? That's what we just seen up here, where York said that a point, see, a circle was drawn, and there's the point. See? So it's showing you that York was straight copying. That Negro ain't smart, he's a clown. He was using magic on you, right? Jewish magic, that's a shame. A central black dot inside, a vast circle of undifferentiated soft light. These diagrams are preserved in Etz chain manuscripts, the writings of the Ari Sha'ar, the Hakadamut, the Drush Hag-Igulim, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Pardis, Ramonim, especially of the Sephirah emerging from a point. The black dot is understood as the first point of definition, the root of Keta, the Reshimu, impression left in the void of Tizim, of the Tizim Tizum. Examples of Tizim Tizum. Look at this. This is how it looks in they writings. The beginning of existence. They have what? A circle and it's pointing. See? Here's how Isaac Luria of the Irish describes the doctrine of Tizim Tizum prior to creation. Prior to creation, there was only the infinite of Soft filling all of existence. When it arose in God's will to create the world and emanate the emanated, he contracted in Hebrew the Tizim Tizum, himself in the point at the center, in the very center of his light. Look, see, this is what York was using in his book. See, it's a couple of circles with a dot in the middle. So you jump back up here to what York put in his book that he put out in the 80s and redid it in the 90s. Right here, look, there go the circle with the dot. See, the circle and the dot. Mystery Saw, he's a fool. All he did was he just again he alters it. That's York's genius, is he's able to alter things in such a way that it's unrecognizable if you didn't know where he got it from. All right, see, look at this. This is ridiculous. I told you, y'all, he mistaught us and made us think that we was Arabs. He mistaught us and made us think we was Jews. He mistaught and made us thought that we was Native Americans. All of these things. Now y'all are low-key Kabbalists. Number 6, the Hakkalah and the Merkava text, the hidden point of darkness. Earlier mystical Merkava text, 3rd to 6th century Christian era, speaks of a hidden point of darkness beneath the throne, from which God engraves the heavens. These are metaphorical texts, but they definitely preserve the black dark point motif. 7, the Midrashic parallels. Midrash Bereshit Rabbah states the world was created from a single point. Look at that, a point. This is explicit. Some commentators describe this point as devoid of light. Darkness precedes light. So the point is by definition a dark point. Summary, does Judaism teach creation from a black dot? Yes, Jewish mystical tradition absolutely teaches creation began with a single primordial point, and in several streams, this point is explicitly described or diagram a dark or black. Right? So then I went into it and asked it about Leviathan. Was Leviathan green in their writings? And they said yes. And it talks about Leviathan being a primordial sea monster, and it's described as having green scales and all of that. So all I wanted to do was prove to y'all that York was indeed a slave of the sex force called Leviathan, and that is my presentation. And I want to know what the Kens have to say about that.
True peace. Yes. One one point of when you was breaking down when you start going into the Kabbalah and you had mentioned the light. The first thing that clicked in my mind was when York taught about the green light, and I was like, "I be there. You go the root of all the evil that he brought forth to place spell of our enemies over us. Trip, I mean double the time, double time. They did it, then he did it, made it worse. But for the most part, this is a very deep presentation because it goes into where all the information was coming from and how he perverted it even more to keep the followers from knowing where he got the information from. It's just the height of deception and wickedness, and they're gonna have to answer to this. And not only that, they either going to accept noon or finish receiving their judgment through, I mean, I ain't gonna say through, but from the orbs, because they gonna receive, just like in the Bible where they talk about the angels, well, y'all really don't know who and what the angels are. I mean, the orbs within itself is going to break down the symbolism. I ain't gonna say symbolism, but breaks down the meaning of all these planets and what what I'm saying, the power that's behind them and how they affect our lives. Well, they gonna get the double whammy of judgment. True peace.
If you choppy or new, I'm gonna just call you on the phone and let you do it. Let me see how you sound, Ken. We can't hear you, Anoop. Hold on.
Yeah, two pieces. I couldn't hear nothing.
Okay.
After a little while.
All right, go ahead. We got you on the phone, so we can hear you.
So
I said we hear you on the phone. Put you on the speakerphone.
live. Okay.
Yeah.
So, from what I did hear, it was pretty thorough. You know, the green light, especially for what that represents in Noom. That green represents the bottom of the soup.
Mm-hmm.
As we all know, those that follow Noom, right? And that stands for secondary creation. I did hear that you spoke about that chaotic energy that sounded like six ether exploding and creating the bottom half of the smack circular order. So it was those writings that the Jews manifested into what the Kabbalah is in the physical aspect was that some of our writings that we had in Kemet, and they were able to transcribe that into the Kabbalah, but only those in the greater mysteries were able to tap into that type of knowledge and things like that. And as it pertains to York, that's why the spell is so great amongst some of the woolly-haired people that was supposed to be woke up from the spell of Leviathan that was cast by York and his followers. So, with that being said, we can see how York was used as an opposition for Afro-Unu and Noom and what it had brought. Had they used a Caucasian, it wouldn't have worked. So it chose somebody who was right along the lines of negative activity that would be able to have a lot of charisma and use that charisma amongst the people and use the magic of the Kabbalah to wrap everybody into it. So the class was amazing from what I did hear, and I thought that it was very thorough, and we need more and more of this to help those in the cult to really see what York has done to them psychologically through the magic of the Kabbalah. So yeah, it was a thorough class, and that's all I can say about that.
All right. So yeah, I'm glad. It took me like 2 days to put this together, and there will be more information coming out. And like Anu said, the greatest gift you can give to an individual is correct information. So please go to our websites, NoopooNoon.com, that's NoPONOONE.com, and Fine9News.com, that's FINENINENEWS.com. Get the books free for downloads, or you can actually pay to get the books made physically, and they'll come to your address, whatever address you got. It's creations there, all types of different services, and we got some other stuff we're working on. So we're working hard for our race and kind to wake up and realize that the whole bottom half, it ain't just Nawabians. The whole bottom half works by magic and spells. So, but we are specifically targeting them because York was used by the negative forces to get in the way of the true information, and they still spinning this information and making it wrong. So we have to show them that the information that they thought they was getting was correct is actually backwards. And so we here to straighten it out, and I'm going to destroy every book that I got in my arsenal that shows the Kabbalah in it. So prepare to see more beatings. True peace.
Yeah, and I just want to add these followers they can well, at least the old heads, because the new heads don't know about the older books, but the older heads they still spinning that York was from Planet Risk and all this, and he has 76 trillion years of knowledge. What's 76 trillion years of knowledge? You mean copies of other people's information perverted and I mean just spreading all sorts of deception and misinformation
Yeah, I
from
forgot.
that.
I'm sorry, I forgot. I wanted to throw this in there too.
Mhm.
Let me share my screen real quick. I forgot. This is why I wanted to show people this. It's in our group on Facebook. On Facebook, so let me know if y'all can see that.
I can see it.
Uh, can you see it, Carl? All right. So when you go into our group and you go further down, because I typed in the Kabbalah. Um, you see one that I did on the Kabbalah. It's called what? Kabbalah Hermaphrodite Gods, featuring Bunu Nupu and Tarkina Nupu. This is September the 4th, 2019. Another one. Ask the Wapians where did you get the word Malakut from? They will say the Sufi order, however, this is false. It comes from the Kabbalah, which is pronounced, is spelled Malkut or Berea, amongst other ways. This Malkut. Malakut is what Kabbalah is called a tree of life. This mystic school is one of Tahuti's, the gay hermaphrodite moon god, as stated many times, or Hermes. Notice her in the name. Below is a site explaining how Tahuti takes on a girl form, a princess actually, and plays with children. Sounds familiar in the Wabians? Then they say this is his name, the Sanandaphan. This makes plenty of sense because you're called Jesus Sanandaphan in the Holy Tablets, and you can't find Jesus ever being called this, but because we are the most deceptive part of the Smash Circle, York's nasty ways of deceptive teaching. Look what this was. This is November the 12th, 2015. We was on this in 2015, February the 7th, 2015. Ask the Wabian why did York say the word Yahuwah or Yahweh meant good and evil, that it stood for a man and also the 24 elders and his holy Torah. 2015. Another one. Ask the Wabians why did York invoke the demon spirit called Raziel. Again, all this is in the spoken of in the Jewish mysticism called the Kabbalah. 2015. Another one. All these here, 2015, April. All this stuff is in the Kabbalah. Same thing with the Torah, talking about Adam being a hermaphrodite and all of those stuff. All this stuff is in the Kabbalah. Right. 2015. All this stuff is 2015. 2015. All this stuff. So this is not something we just stumbled upon. We've been doing this. It's just that the mental dead is just that. Mental dead and their personal spirits that accompanies each human being made sure and misguided them away from certain things so they wouldn't see it. So we had to come back around and to spin the circle. Others say they spin the block. We spin the circle, counterclockwise and brought it back again. So we just letting y'all know that this is serious business, serious business. And so I'm all right. All right, so I'm gonna get out of here. Baby sleep. I'm getting too loud, so I gotta show respect to the crib. I appreciate y'all cans coming through, and we will get together tomorrow. If it's meant to be. True peace to everybody. True peace.